bucket, and me and Caleb just walked up as he was walking through the metal detector, and we have our badges out. We arrested him at the airport on his way back to Boston.
Just as he was about to board a plane at LAX, decked out in Gucci gear and carrying wads of cash.
Joel was the first person ever arrested for SIM swapping. He was charged with 41 counts, including grand theft, identity theft, and assorted computer crimes. But now, they had to figure out where the money was.
We were sentencing a hacker who was relatively young, but who had committed a very sophisticated crime, and that had caused so much damage.
By any standard, this is a remarkable case. The amount stolen was greater than the original value of the great train robbery.
I think all SIM swap victims who have lost money are watching this Joel Ortiz trial, and certainly the SIM swappers are watching it to see how much time he will end up having to serve.
I lost everything. I'm 50 years old with 2 small children, and I'm facing no retirement. Because Joel Ortiz and one day destroyed our lives. Everything we spent decades building.
Joel pleaded no contest to the charges, and in fact, it was a guilty plea. At 21 years old, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for stealing $7 million. But prosecutors have failed to get him to reveal the location of Bitcoin they suspect he's hidden.
Joel is arrested at LAX. And what he has with him that's super important in this case is he has a ledger. And a ledger is almost like a thumb drive that holds cryptocurrency. He gave him a password and they recovered $300,000. I had conversations with Joel and told him that we could be more lenient if he were to tell us where the rest of his money was. We know that he didn't get all of the money that he stole. He split it with his partners, but there was a significant amount of money missing.
Today, Joel is in Centinela State. If they're right, he will be coming home in 2028 at 30 years old to millions of dollars.
Me personally, I think he gave it all up. When I was talking to him, he said he had about $1 million left. Crypto obviously tanked around that time too, so it makes sense for it to be about 3 times less than what it had been when I talked with him last.
It shouldn't have been 10 years, and not even close.
Dennis Dawson represents Joel Ortiz. Dawson says his client got a harsh deal for a non-violent offense because Dawson says the court system wants to make an example of Ortiz.
And Joel was a kid. He was 19 and 20. They do things to impress their friends.
But Seth Shapiro and Anne Marie Michaels say 10 years is not enough. Authorities only recovered about $75,000 of their stolen money.
Mr. Ortiz, I'm so sorry. You'll be sitting in prison instead of using your incredible talents for something productive in your college years, your growing years, your 20s. But you know what? I hope you grow from this and rejoin society and benefit the world. Find your soul in this time, and God bless you in your new journey. Sincerely, your nameless, faceless victim, Jeremiah Nichols.
As for his friends, 5 others were captured and charged in connection with the scheme. Calvin Ung stole $1.5 million and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Nicholas Truglia stole $22 million and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Ricky was ordered to pay restitution of $7.7 million and sentenced to 48 months in prison. Xavier is suspected of having stolen over $1 million. He was previously granted supervised release, but the actual outcome of his case remains private, either due to his age or some deal he made with the prosecutors. And finally, Joseph Harris, charged with stealing $14 million from the San Jose-based tech firm Crowd Machine. He returned all the money, was sentenced to 16 months in prison, and got out early 2020. He has since turned his prowess to ethical hacking, reporting exploits for pay to companies through their bug bounty programs instead of abusing them.
I mean, Joel had a rough upbringing in some regards, but he was kind to us as friends, and I feel he got mixed up in the wrong world, like a lot of us did. But at the same time, the victims are also real people too. The high from gaining millions of dollars in minutes is insane, so imagine how the low of losing it in minutes feels. So while we were young and made mistakes, stealing millions from people still is a horrendous thing to do. I needed jail and time away from the world to truly realize how bad it was.
But these arrests were just the tip of the iceberg. While SIM swapping isn't nearly as easy as it once was, it's a bigger problem today than ever.
It seems like Every week there is a new way that hackers are convincing the telephone companies to change SIMs.
Ultimately, it's always going to come down to human failures at large corporations. If you can trick, bribe, or convince someone to do something bad, that's where the liability lies, and they should be held accountable.
There's not much we can do to protect ourselves from the SIM swap happening. What we can do is protect ourselves from the damage that these crooks can do once they have control of our accounts. Every account that you have is going to ask you for some sort of recovery, and what you don't want to use is your telephone.
These guys had made it look real glamorous, influencing countless fraudsters to come. But those are stories for another day.
Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this. This is Joel.
People between the ages of 13 and 25 who are living in their mom's basement, existing off Uber Eats, never leaving their homes, and all of a sudden, they're instant millionaires.
On the 15th of July, 2020, a 17-year-old infiltrated Twitter, posting a Bitcoin doubling scam to the accounts of numerous celebrities.
Being called the biggest security incident in Twitter's history.
Former President Barack Obama, Tesla founder Elon Musk, even Microsoft's Bill Gates.
It netted him $117,000. Pennies to a teen who, at the time of his arrest, was found with $3 million more. And when I did some digging, I found that he has a long history of internet fraud and extortion. So today, I'm going to tell you the untold story of Graham, how he went from stealing thousands on Minecraft to robbing millions from CEO hedge fund types, to getting involved in a homicide and eventually getting greedy and hacking Twitter, all before he was 18. This is going to be a wild ride into the seedier sides of the internet, so buckle up.
I don't scam shit, dude. Your channel's literal shit. You get 0 views. I'm basically your fucking channel, dude. Might as well say open mix MC vids. Come on now.
They work together and they scam, like Minecraft tapes. Like they sell Minecraft tapes to get the scam.
I made 5K in the past month off of Minecraft.
I know you're DDoSing.
I didn't hit him off.
You hit him off. It's not your first time DDoSing someone.
I only believed it because of his YouTube channel, because he has subs, but
it's actually ridiculous some of the stuff that Graham got up to in 2016 when he was just 14 years old. But most of all, I found that this era of his life really highlights something important about his personality. See, Graham was running what was a rather large YouTube channel for the niche that he was in. He was doing videos on a Minecraft game mode known as Hardcore Factions, and in his videos he was extremely charismatic and charming. But underneath this act, he was really leveraging and taking advantage of his audience to scam them for money. And worst of all, when exposed, he would show zero regard for right and wrong. He literally didn't care what other people thought of him. Look, what we're about to explore on the surface is just the shenanigans of a young teenager. But what it helps us understand is how he was able to make a seemingly small leap out of this world into committing his later, much more serious crimes. Before any of the scams, what influenced Graham to arrive at this point in his life? Well, very little is known about his childhood, other than that he was raised by his mom, a single parent. As you've seen already, he certainly appears to have been a troubled youth, perhaps at risk to get involved in any sort of crime. But I would bet money on Hardcore Factions being his first introduction to the dark side of internet fraud and extortion. There's a lot of context here, so let me explain. See, this game mode was originally devised and hosted by Chapo Network. It was a twist on the already notoriously toxic game mode, Factions PvP. At its core, players formed teams, aka factions. They would build bases to store their loot, and they would fight members of other factions with the hopes of beating them so they could raid their bases for the riches and bragging rights. This new hardcore version had a couple of twists that really pitted players against each other. The most intense of these changes is that if you were killed, you would be banned from the server for the duration of your playtime. And this gave players time to stew, often coming up with a plan for revenge, even if it meant taking it outside of the game. During this era, Minecraft cheating clients were becoming extremely popular due to griefing teams on YouTube glamorizing their destructive nature. And Hardcore Factions was no exception to this. With the stakes so high, it was almost irresistible. Extraing was one thing, but the real power was in the PvP cheats. Players were almost forced into it to remain competitive. Now, that said, I don't think the actual cheating was the worst part. No, the worst part was the culture around these clients. See, hardcore faction players were known for DDoSing, account hijacking, and even swatting. The hack client culture had permeated into these servers. There was, and still is, an overlap between Minecraft cheating and actual hacking communities. You know, I remember the Nodus forum. I was a young teen then myself, and that place was literally my first introduction into the world of routers, dump databases, credential stuffing, remote administration tools, you name it. They were using all those techniques there to procure hacked Minecraft accounts. On Hardcore Factions, people were literally purchasing and selling stolen accounts known as alts for a few pennies each to continue playing during that period after death. But for some, like Graham, they would end up exploring these techniques outside of the context of Minecraft. It was like a stepping stone, because these same techniques could be applied to get into any type of online accounts. Banks, social media, crypto exchanges, you name it.
Alright, we go. When you a bitch, scamming piece of shit, say you make 5K a month, that's bullshit. Scamming kids for $30, hit a bitch up. You can get a holla, man. Shut the fuck up.
Now, of course, just being involved in these communities, Graham didn't immediately break into high-level social engineering overnight. There was a series of events that seemed to have led Graham down that path, each step of the way less innocent than the one before. And you know it's bad when someone makes a 6-minute-long diss track chronicling all that you've done wrong.
Say you care about your family, you don't give a fuck. Scamming, doxing, faking, boy, where does it end?
See, Graham first broke bad between 2016 and 2017 on his YouTube channel, where he mainly posted trapping videos. Those are clever ways to kill other players in hardcore factions. And he did all this under his Minecraft name, OpenHFC, and later just Open. That username is important, by the way, and very telling, but we'll get back to it shortly. Now, instead of finding legitimate ways to monetize his niche internet micro-celebrity fame, instead he turned to devising little scams to rip off his audience, often with an accomplice.
Open was with Feed. Feed is pretty much Open's scamming buddy.
Though, when you watch some of these, you really get the idea that Graham was the one leading the entire thing.
The deal was I'd give him $50 and a shout out for a mic on Cape.
I'll give you the link first. Alright, that's the redeem.
That goes to a website, blaze.tk.
He says that he's looking for server trailers to upload.
Do not work with this guy. He charges like $200 a trailer and then he doesn't even upload them. He just runs away with your money.
Made a fake giveaway.
Yeah, and you already admitted it was fake, so don't even try and play like it
wasn't a fake giveaway. I just didn't give the shit to the winner.
Exactly.
And I don't care.
No matter how many exposing videos came out, his audience didn't really seem to care or even dwindle. He was still growing. And when he did catch flack, he'd just try to talk his way out of it.
DDoSing attempt to where?
Okay,
I can't have an MC resolver up of a staff
Let me ask
member?
you this. Why would you want a staff member's IP? Just tell me.
Who said I wanted his IP?
Well, why are you searching on MC resolver then?
Who said that? What if I want to see a skin?
And when someone pinned him, he'd brag about it.
Tracker, you staff?
I was stabbed.
So if I say fuck you, is that staff disrespect?
Already, I don't care. I do like both.
I'm like 12, but I make... You want me to show you my pay?
Sure.
You think I'm kidding?
Why are you trying to
I made 5K.
It's
I
like
made 5K
1K.
the past month on Minecraft.
That's sweet.
Off Minecraft.
Keep in mind, these are all pretty much YouTubers that he scammed. You can imagine the amount of other people he scammed with no following to expose him to. Nothing about his channel was honest. Even the trapping videos were exposed to be fake.
One of Open's friends recorded Open taking his clips and planning it out.
I swear, Pastor, you're gonna be like the type to make an expose video on this bitch.
If anything though, having so many people help him make these videos really illustrates something about Graham. He was good at getting people to do what he wanted. In fact, at some point Graham decided to open a Minecraft server called Fuse PvP, but he lacked the technical talent to do it. But to compensate, he talked his way into getting other people to set it up for him.
Like, this is literally setting up your server. I don't know why you're complaining
Well, you guys
about
pay
it.
$10 for that?
I'll give you $10 for the clip, and then we'll set up your damn server, yes.
And when they wouldn't do it for free, he would try scamming them.
All you need to do is give me your work, the plugins.
About the plugin, sent it to him in a file, and as soon as we sent it, he said thanks bitches, and then he spammed John Cena like soundboards and everything like that, and then he left.
I don't play with your crap, bro. You mess with me, you mess with my boy. You wanna know who my boy is? My boy is
He even scammed other YouTubers into promoting it.
This is the description and shit that he wants you to put for a trailer, basically a trailer.
His talent was in manipulation, not technology, and he didn't seem to want to pay for anything, no matter how little the cost. He was greedy, and this is foreshadowing. Now, there's one last aspect from this time in Graham's life that we've yet to examine. His username, Open. It's pretty nice, right? Well, he likely purchased it for a few $100s off somebody who stole it. See, there is a whole market for unique usernames like this, be it for Instagram, Twitter, Minecraft, you name it. And worse, there's a group of people who are acutely aware of this and have made careers out of obtaining these names for sale by any means possible. The most notorious form for this is OG Users. It's a known marketplace where these types of usually stolen social media accounts are traded. While of course they don't openly advertise or condone the illegal side of how members obtain these accounts, some of the worst stories of targeted harassment and extortion that I've ever heard of were committed by members of this forum. And by 2016, Graham had set up an account to buy and sell usernames here. But it wasn't until 2018 that he really got involved, basically right at the end of his Minecraft scamming days. Hardcore Factions was falling out of popularity, and so this was a natural transition given that the communities are somewhat linked already and Graham has a proclivity for making bad decisions in the pursuit of money. You've got to understand, a good name like @Panda on Twitter will go for thousands of dollars. There's serious money in hacking them, and the members of this forum have varying levels of experience. Of course, the vast majority have no idea what they're doing, but at the very top you have a handful of folks that are versed in blackmail, doxing, phishing, sim swapping, to name a few of the techniques that they use to take over accounts. And Graham, being a social butterfly, was getting himself involved with that more experienced crowd.
I knew Graham under the alias Grim, which was probably early 2018. All the people knew him as the Minecraft guy. He used to just scam people all the time. And he started like hacking people as a sim swapper.
I got a notice from the Secret Service. When they finally captured Grant, they made it known to me that there was probably some recovery that was available to me.
Exactly 1 year before the Twitter hack on April 15th, 2019, tech investor Greg Bennett was having a little afternoon business chat with his son when his mobile phone dropped signal.
It absolutely goes dead. There's no cell signal, no nothing. I can't get into my email account either.
He was the target of a SIM swap attack.
I immediately called up AT&T and they say, sorry sir, that's not your account. All my crypto accounts have been hacked. And think about how easy this is. If somebody takes over your phone, all these folks have to do is use your email address to try to log on to these accounts and then say, forgot password. So then the password resets. It's sent to your text, which is now controlled by another phone that you don't have. And they reset the password, and now they have complete control over getting into all of your crypto accounts.
This type of attack was becoming more and more common. While it was originally devised to break into social media accounts to steal their rare usernames, perpetrators on OG Users quickly realized that they could use the same techniques to break into the accounts of large crypto holders.
The way Graham used to find his target, he would go on like the Twitter accounts of Coinbase, Bittrex, Binance, and he'd see who looked rich, who didn't, who flexed, who didn't, who looked more wealthy.
Once Graham and never identified accomplices targeted Greg, they would have doxed him to get his phone number and email addresses, and then used that information to execute the SIM swap. In total, they got away with what amounted to be 164 bitcoins. 100 of that was straight Bitcoin, and the other 64 was various altcoins. At the time, that was worth $856,000, but in today's value, it would be worth $6.3 million. So what the heck does he do with it? He balls out. According to the Times, Graham was attracting attention at school because he seemed to have an unusual amount of wealth for his age. He was buying designer clothes, apparently flashing large amounts of cash, and of course he had that BMW 3 Series. But where he was really showing off was on his Instagram account at Air. Now, unfortunately, this account has since been terminated and most of the content lost to time. But to give you an idea of the type of purchases he was boasting about, one of the things that did survive is this shout out from a jeweler to the hip hop elite showing that Graham had purchased himself a gem encrusted Rolex. Dude was spending some mad coin, but I think there's something a little deeper here than him just having been a 17-year-old showing off. I mean, this was part of SimSwapper culture.
People between the ages of 13 and 25 who are living in their mom's basement, existing off Uber Eats, never leaving their homes, and all of a sudden, they're instant millionaires.
I've been in the kitchen, wrist twisting like a trick shot. Most you rappers got no bars like a sim swap. Girls dropping.
There was idolized members of OG users like Windblow, Xavier, and Joel, who between 2016 and 2019, without any punishment up until then, stole into the tens of millions of dollars by sim swapping, and they were openly living lavish lifestyles because of it. I mean, Xavier literally purchased a $200,000 McLaren with stolen crypto and posted about it on Instagram. Worse, he was publicly sharing videos like this too. Notice the sign spelling out his handle? This was at the Hyde Sunset Club in Los Angeles. That is not a cheap place. And his friend, another sim swapper, Joel Ortez, was there too, posting videos of them dumping out $200 bottles of glow-in-the-dark champagne over designer watches. At least he got this good selfie with those bottles first, because now he's doing a decade in prison at 21 years old for having stolen $7.5 million. I digress. These were all young guys stealing a ton of money, spending it fast, and boasting about it, and I can totally see how Graham could have idolized these people, and perhaps that's why he seemingly followed in their footsteps. Graham and friends actually ran into a problem when stealing from Greg.
Because I had a 100 Bitcoin limit in this specific account with Bittrex, they repeatedly tried to go back in and take whatever else was left out of that account, but the 100 Bitcoin limit kind of mitigated my losses, if you want to say that.
And so, just like the Minecraft days, when one scam isn't working, iterate. In this case, that meant extortion.
Graham Clark, who was going by Scrim at that time as his pseudonym, so tried to ransom you from your own email address to regain access to your information for an additional 50 Bitcoin. Was that what they tried to do as well?
Yeah, so I actually had 4 email accounts. They had actually hacked all 4 of them and then gave me access, regave me access to one, and used that as a vehicle to try to communicate and extort more from me.
But as the days go on and Greg isn't responding to the ransom, it becomes apparent that Graham has pulled a fast one on his accomplices.
Graham decided to keep all the money and he didn't split it with the other people.
I assume Graham vanished on whatever messaging service they were using, because they get desperate and start trying to reach him through Greg's email account, threatening that they're going to turn him into the police if he doesn't share 66% of the theft.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, a lot of people didn't like him because of some of the choices he made. So obviously that's going to come with some backlash. They got his family's personal info. They were just constantly harassing him. Someone sent people to Graham's house to scare him or even rob him at one point.
Well, they're planning his robbery. They wanted to have him like tortured, like a lot of dark things done.
The thing is, he was no ghost. After this, he was the subject of a criminal investigation which ultimately led to a search warrant being executed at his residence in August 2019, just 4 months after this theft. Get this, from that they seized $15,000 in cash and 400 Bitcoin from Graham. That is a crap ton more than what we knew about. I mean, I assume he was involved in many similar SimSwap attacks that were never linked back to him to acquire that, but at this point I don't think we're ever really gonna know for sure. Now, while Graham was waiting on the outcome of this criminal investigation, which seized his money, according to the Times from interviews with his peers, there's some claims that he got involved with selling drugs. Everything from vapes to weed to LSD. And over Christmas break, January 4th, 2020 now, this got him involved in a home invasion in which one of his friends ended up dead.
2 people were shot, one of them dead after an apparent home invasion in Citrus Park. The other is in critical condition. It happened at the Seasons at West Chase apartment complex on the 12,000 block of Citrus Falls Circle.
At about 7:30 p.m., two teens kicked in a screened back patio and let themselves into an apartment through an unlocked door. One of them was carrying a firearm. Both made demands of the residents, a man with his fiancée, and that man retrieved a gun and opened fire, leaving both teens reported to the sheriff's office. They were rushed to the hospital where one was pronounced dead and the other was listed as in critical condition. When patrol deputies arrived on scene, they located a suspicious vehicle with two more teenagers inside. One of those teenagers was Graham. From the police file, one of the kids claims that Graham had essentially set them up. He went with them to the house of another drug dealer with a gun and then took off when he heard the shots. In his interview with police, Graham denies anything about it.
You say, I don't know anything about it. I'm not aware. That's why I gave them money. If they were going to go rob someone, why would I give them money? Is that believable? What's believable? What you're telling us. I counted 5,500. I gave it to them. They walk and they go to the thing. So what makes you think I know that they're going to go wrong?
From the police reports, they concluded that there's no proof of what Graham's actual role was. The only thing they knew for sure was that he was outside in the car when the shooting took place. There wasn't enough evidence to convict him, and so he went free. 2 days after the shooting and 1 day before students returned after Christmas break, the principal sent out an email saying those who were involved in the shooting face serious charges and will not be returning. And so this was the end of Graham going to high school, and it's at this point with his world crumbling around him that he decides to move out on his own. And this was possible because the feds let him off real easy on the SIM swap case.
It's appropriate to assume that every single penny that this defendant has access to is by ill-gotten gains.
After an 8-month-long investigation, all the charges against Graham were dropped.
He kind of said that they came to an agreement where he had to give up blah 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 amount of funds, and once doing so, they'd drop all the charges on him.
Out of all of that money seized, they only made him give up 100 bitcoins. They essentially were after him for the theft of $1 million. When they raided his apartment, they found $3 million more on top of that, and they let him walk free with that money as long as he paid back what they knew he had stolen.
Our office spoke with the prosecutors in California about the decision to have him pay restitution and basically not to criminally charge him as an adult.
It seems that the main reason for this outcome is because there is a lot of barriers to charge